Hello everyone, and welcome back to the GM Academy. This episode we're looking at Structuring Adventures 1, Structuring a Campaign Adventure, the new start to our Structuring Adventures series. What we're looking at today specifically is how to structure an episodic campaign. This week we will be looking at how to structure sessions. I'm going to be building an entire playlist on how to structure sessions for various types of games. We're starting with episodic game. This models the structure of a lot of TV shows where you have a clear plot for an episode and then you move on next episode. Characters and growth persist between episodes for this kind because in role-playing games the big reset button is very rarely a good idea. But every episode is demonstrably and understandably about a thing. An example of this is I'm currently playing in a Star Trek game where we get a mission each episode, which can be a couple of sessions, and we solve that and we know what our episode is. So, your most basic outline, and this is going to sound a little bit silly, is your game should have a definable beginning, middle, and an end. And I say that and everyone says, of course it should, Stephen. That's how stories work. But the number of times I've run a game and the number of games I've played in that when I look back did not have a bit I could say had a beginning, middle and end as a solid plot arc that I could follow. So I like to think about it directly when I'm doing it. And I will hold my hands up that this is a mistake I have made a lot of times. It's something I am currently working on to improve. When you're doing a beginning, this is where you bring your characters and your players in. This is how you get them into the plot, ready to have their adventure. You establish what the plot is and what's happening. I usually do this with what I call an inciting incident. And that will be a scene with a little bit of action so that the players are immediately doing something, the characters are immediately doing something, where the problem is made very clear to them. I particularly try to avoid briefing scenes. I don't know about anyone else, but I don't think I've ever enjoyed a scene when my character sat and was given a mission by an official and then we nodded and said, yes, sir. I try to avoid briefing scenes by having the characters start immediately in the action. And if worse, I'll assume there has been a briefing scene and we'll catch the players up on it a little bit later without going through the whole scene because I don't think they make for fun play. Your inciting incident should be something with a bit of drama to it, but that very clearly begins your session and sets out what your plot is going to be. If possible, I also try to bring up a recurring B-plot to remind the players exist. That's often something which happened before, now coming into resolve, so the aftermath of last session, or me starting to foreshadow next session or the session after. Then you have the middle. This is the section I plan the absolute least. Generally, when I sit down to run a game, and I run a lot of games, my middle section, if I did a mental map of it, would be a series of question marks, me looking confused, some shrug shoulders. I play very reactionally. What I do is I make sure my inciting incident has 2 or 3 clues in it, and I'll think of them as I'm starting, and it's important not to have just one clue. Do not set your players down on a linear path, and then when they follow them, you react to whatever scene they're doing. You put a new scene up for whatever they're going to investigate. Whatever clue they are doing, you make sure you've got something there, another scene for them to have fun in it. And I do those scenes, a couple of them, 4 or 5, depending on how long my game session is. But each of those scenes should have exits to multiple other scenes. And what I mean by exits is each of them should clearly give an indication for another scene. And what I can't stress enough is do not make your players roll for these indications. Just give it to whoever's got the best skill or the best roll so that your game doesn't grind to a halt on everyone failing a check. Now, if you had 3 exits from each of 4 scenes, that would mean that you gave 81 different places that the scenario could go. But the sneaky trick here is because in each scene you're dropping one piece of clue they need to get to the final scene, whichever 4 scenes they pick, or 3 scenes depending on how long you've got, are the ones that have the clue that get them to their resolution. You need to drop them in each scene as well as away elsewhere. You need to drop them a piece of new information that builds them towards resolution. Those scenes can be all kinds of different things. They could be a role-playing opportunity. They could be an action scene, a fight scene, a tension scene in a horror sort of game, a mystery for them to solve, an investigation. What's important, let your genre guide you. If you're playing a game in a genre that's high action, make sure you have lots of action scenes. In a horror game, build a lot of tension. In a mystery game, make sure you're doing mysteries and investigations. But each one of these scenes needs to give you a clue towards the finale and a clue towards where to go next. Now, once they've got all their clues and you think you've got enough, you move to the end. This is your big payoff, the denouement. This is something that I do sort of work out generally while I'm running the rest of the game. Some spectacular payoff, because people like to remember what happened at the end. Your final scene is often your big last hurrah. It's often what people will remember, so make it good. It's often an action scene. People seem to like action scenes and fight scenes to end things. It means you can kill off your villain or have them escape swearing their vengeance next time. But be careful about your timing. Worst thing in the world is you get to the last half hour of the game, you've decided you're having a big action scene, and there's not many games that will run you a big action scene in half hour. Look at your time, look at your clock, make sure you're running a scene that you can finish. It should deal with the episode's main issue. If you're playing an episodic game, things get dealt with. There can be repercussions in later episodes, but you can say this is where we dealt with that, and then foreshadow a little bit of those fallout issues. You do want your episodes to have effects on later episodes. Start showing that a little bit. I'll often have one more scene afterwards where the players are shown or deal with something that happened because of what they managed to do in the end. But in the end, you want your big last scene to be your action scene. You want this to be the moment in a movie where everything came together 10 minutes before the end. This is your big blowout. Make sure it's spectacular. So, in conclusion, have a beginning, middle and an end. Your beginning should link in from your last episode. Your end should link into your next episode. Have your beginning planned as an inciting incident, so you think about what is an exciting thing that could be happening to kick my players off into a plot, and have a couple of clues for places to go. In the middle, have a bunch of scenes that you react to where the players want to go. Each scene should give them an exit to 2 or 3 other scenes, and should give them a clue towards the big final payoff. When they've got enough of those clues, they go to the big final payoff. In that time, you have a finale planned. They have their massive, exciting scene to finish, and then you are done. Make sure, as always, in my advice, you are able to accept and willing to accept player directions and leads. Do not try and railroad people. Instead, you can have a sort of modified map of nodes for them to move through, with each scene being a little node on their way towards having fun. Thank you very much. This has been the GM Academy. My name's Stephen Fleetwood Joyce. We're a brand new channel, so if you could hit like and subscribe, that'd be really helpful for us, so that the dreaded algorithm can start to know we exist. Have a great day.